Arkansas is known far and wide for its great duck hunting, but it's the abundance of seasonally flooded forests that makes Arkansas unique. Arkansas had more than 5 million acres of bottomland hardwood forests prior to European settlement. And while maybe 20% of that is all that remains, Arkansas is far better off than its neighbors in the Mississippi Delta. The construction of green tree reservoirs has also helped preserve the state's green tree duck hunting legacy. GTRs, as they're commonly known, allow land managers to artificially replicate the seasonal flooding patterns of traditional bottomland hardwood forests. They provide critical habitat for migrating waterfowl as well as hunting opportunities.
Green tree reservoirs are actually a very important part of what's left of the bottomland hardwood forest that was historically widespread in Arkansas all the way across the eastern part of the state.
Arkansas is famous for its wealth of public green timber hunting at places such as Biomeda and Black River wildlife management areas. But management of these public resources has to change for Arkansas to remain the mecca of public green timber duck hunting. The artificial flooding regime that's been in place for decades has had negative effects on forest health.
The trees that live in those areas are trees that tolerate some flooding during the course of the year, mainly dormant season flooding, but not growing season flooding. Green tree reservoirs, of course, have been managed for waterfowl hunting primarily, at least in recent years. So the timing of the flooding in many cases in the past was geared more towards the timing of duck seasons as opposed to the timing of when the natural flooding would have occurred in those bottomland forests.
That wasn't just bad in and of itself. People thought they were doing the right thing to provide duck habitat and waterfowl hunting opportunity. But making that decision with an annual focus year after year is kind of what got us to this point.
The Arkansas Game and Fish Commission has looked at the health of its public duck hunting areas for the past several years, and the diagnosis hasn't been good. Excessive exposure to water has killed trees and made many others sick. The composition of the forest is also changing, with red oak species beneficial to wildlife being replaced by more water-tolerant species that provide fewer wildlife benefits.
There's no red oak regeneration happening within 1/10 of an acre. Everything that's in here is elm and overcoat.
But the motivation for altering green tree management goes much deeper.
Looking at what is the natural vegetative community that should exist at this elevation, this soil type, this flooding frequency. What's the forest community that was here, pre-European settlement, pre-GTR, pre the initial timber harvest back before Game and Fish got it. It's been affected by all these things, hydrology, past forest management, before our ownership. Taking all that information together and saying, okay, what's the forest type that should exist here? And that actually may be different than what would have existed 100 years ago because the hydrology is different now.
For an extreme example of what happens when too much water stays on a forest for too long, we can turn to Henry Gray Hurricane Lake. Several years of high water on the White River, combined with infrastructure deficiencies, have caused the death of several hundred acres of hardwood trees. To avoid similar outcomes on other wildlife management areas, Game and Fish will need to alter water management plans on other green tree reservoirs. Many changes will require new or improved infrastructure, but the overall theme will be mimicking natural processes.
No rocket science here, but rather just trying to emulate or to replicate, if you will, what Mother Nature would have done naturally anyway. First off, make sure that we don't have prolonged flooding in the growing season. Secondly, to try and replicate the things that occur across years, so that we don't do exactly the same thing year after year.
The Arkansas Game and Fish Commission is already working on the problem. The first step was delaying the date when water is intentionally held on green tree reservoirs. We're also cleaning out streams to improve drainage in anticipation of future infrastructure projects. Game and Fish is working with the U.S. Geological Survey to monitor water levels, and there's also ongoing research on tree dormancy. But the agency has done most of what's possible to this point, and managing these bottomland hardwood forests for the future will require significant infrastructure improvements. Since 2017, Game and Fish has assessed habitat conditions and infrastructure needs on almost every public green tree reservoir the agency manages. Although each place is unique, they present similar long-term management challenges. For more than half a century, the focus was on holding water. A sustainable future for these forests means shifting the focus to moving water. Water control structures will need to be moved and replaced. Levees will have to be modified. Drainages will need to be cleared of debris and obstructions. We're talking wholesale changes, requiring significant logistical and financial resources. But it's an investment worth making because these areas are vital to ducks, as well as the overall Delta ecosystem. And because this piece of Arkansas's cultural heritage is priceless.